She's been declining for months now. The doctors say it could be early-onset dementia. I'll be handling her affairs." My husband said that to my family with a warm smile on his face. He said it with the same hands that had been dropping something into my tea every single morning for a year. But what my husband didn't know is that I'd stopped drinking that tea 7 weeks ago. My name is Renata Cole. I'm 36 years old, and I need to tell you how I almost lost everything, including my life, to the man who promised to love me forever. I built my company from absolutely nothing. At 19, I was working the front desk at a chiropractor's office in a strip mall, answering phones and filing paperwork for $11 an hour. I saved every single dollar I could. I went to night school for my business degree, studying until 2 in the morning after full shifts on my feet. Over the next decade, I built a chain of boutique wellness clinics across the Southeast. 15 locations, over 200 employees, a net worth of $20 million. I wasn't born into money. I didn't have connections or a trust fund or a family name that opened doors. Everything I built came from sleepless nights, stubborn faith in myself, and the refusal to quit when life got hard. Then I met Devin. He was charming and attentive and confident in a way that felt safe. He seemed genuinely proud of my success. He made me feel like I didn't have to carry everything alone anymore. We got married 4 years ago, and for a while, it felt like I had finally found the missing piece. But over the past year, something had been happening to me. Mysterious fatigue that wouldn't go away. Brain fog so thick I couldn't remember conversations from the day before. Nausea every morning. My hair started thinning. My hands trembled during business meetings. I went to doctor after doctor, and nobody could tell me what was wrong. I started doubting myself, my mind, my grip on reality. I thought I was losing myself. Turns out, someone was stealing me. 1 teaspoon at a time. If you've ever trusted someone completely and later realized they were working against you behind your back, subscribe. I need you in this community. Drop a comment and tell me you're here. I read every single one. Now let me tell you what really happened. Let's go. It started slowly enough that I didn't even notice at first. Tiredness I blamed on working too many hours. Then came the vertigo. I'd be standing in a meeting and the room would tilt sideways, and I'd have to grab the edge of the table to keep from falling. Then I started forgetting things. Not small things, entire conversations. I'd have a call with a client on Monday, and by Wednesday I couldn't remember a single word we'd said. My hands began trembling so badly that I had to stop signing documents in front of people because I was embarrassed. I went to 4 different doctors over 6 months. Blood work kept coming back with elevated levels of certain metals, but no one could pinpoint where they were coming from. No one could give me a diagnosis. And through all of it, Devin was right there beside me. He drove me to every appointment. He held my hand in every waiting room. He started making me special herbal teas in the evening to help me relax, and every morning he'd prepare a thermos of tea for me to take to work. He started suggesting, gently at first, that maybe I should step back from the business. "You're pushing yourself too hard, babe. Let me handle things for a while. You need to rest." I thought he was being loving. I thought he was being protective. Then one evening, Devin sat me down at the kitchen table. There was a man I'd never met sitting across from us. Devin introduced him as a lawyer. His lawyer, not mine. Devin slid a stack of legal documents across the table toward me and placed a pen on top. Power of attorney papers. He wanted me to sign over control of my finances, my business decisions, my medical choices, everything. "Just in case things get worse," he said. "Renata, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to protect you. What if you collapse at work? What if you sign something you don't remember signing? I'm your husband. Let me carry this for you." His voice was so soft, so rehearsed, so perfectly concerned. My hand was on the pen. I almost signed. But something stopped me. A memory. 5 weeks earlier, I'd gone on a business trip to Atlanta for 5 days. Devin stayed home. And during those 5 days, I felt better. Not just a little better, dramatically better. My mind was sharp. My energy came back. The nausea disappeared. I felt like myself again for the first time in months. Then I came home. Devin made me tea that first night back. Within 48 hours, every symptom returned. I pulled my hand away from the pen. "I need more time," I said. Something flashed across Devin's face. It was quick, just a fraction of a second, but I saw it. Anger. Real anger. Then it was gone, replaced by that patient, caring smile. "Of course, baby. Whenever you're ready." That night, I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. At 2 a.m, I heard footsteps in the kitchen. I crept to the doorway and watched. Devin opened the cabinet above the stove, reached behind the spice rack, and pulled out a small container I'd never seen before. He unscrewed the lid, tapped a fine white powder into a measuring spoon, and carefully stirred it into my tea thermos. The one I took to work every single morning. His hands were steady. His face was calm. There was no hesitation. No guilt. Nothing. I watched my husband poison me, and he didn't even flinch. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run into that kitchen and throw that thermos at his head, but I knew that would be a mistake. If I confronted him now, he'd deny it. He'd gaslight me. He'd tell my family I was paranoid and delusional, and they'd believe him because he'd already been laying the groundwork. Instead, I stayed silent and started watching. And the more I watched, the worse it got. Devin called my business partner Lydia behind my back. He told her I was mentally deteriorating and that the board should start discussing a buyout plan. He said he was telling her this out of love and concern. Then he called my mother. Then my sister. He cried on the phone to both of them, telling them he was scared for me, that I was forgetting things, that I wasn't safe running a company anymore. My own family turned on me. My mother called me the next day, her voice dripping with that careful, pitying tone that made my skin crawl. "Honey, Devin loves you. Maybe it's time to let someone else handle the business. You're not yourself anymore." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. The people I loved most in this world were being weaponized against me, and they didn't even know it. But that wasn't the worst of it. I started digging into our finances. What I found made me sick in a way that had nothing to do with poison. Devin had been meeting secretly with my company's CFO, requesting financial summaries and detailed asset reports. He'd opened a joint bank account I never authorized and had been quietly transferring money out of my personal savings. 5,000 here, 8,000 there. Small enough amounts that he thought I wouldn't notice. Testing the waters, seeing how far gone I really was. Then I found the life insurance policy. It was tucked inside a gym bag in the trunk of his car. A $2 million policy on my life, with Devin listed as the sole beneficiary. He'd taken it out 7 months ago. $2 million. That's what my life was worth to him, on top of everything else he planned to take. And still, I said nothing. I kept playing the part of the sick, confused wife. Because my moment was coming. The final humiliation came at a charity gala. My charity gala, for my company, that I had organized before the fog rolled in. Devin stood at the podium in a suit I'd paid for, in a ballroom I'd rented, and gave a speech. He thanked everyone for supporting Renata during her health challenges. He implied I'd be stepping down soon. He looked out at the crowd with those sincere, practiced eyes and said, "I just want everyone to know. I'll make sure her legacy continues, no matter what happens." The room erupted in applause. People were clapping for the man who was slowly killing me. I sat in the audience and felt every pair of eyes on me, filled with pity. A board member leaned over and whispered, "You're lucky to have him." I smiled and said nothing, but something shifted inside me that night. The sadness burned away, and what was left underneath was fury. Cold, clear, patient fury. I went home, locked myself in the bathroom, and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I was thinner than I'd ever been. My skin was pale. My cheeks were hollow. But my eyes were clear. Because I hadn't touched his tea in weeks. I'd been pouring it down the drain every morning and replacing it with my own clean brew from a sealed container I kept hidden in my car. My strength was coming back. My mind was razor sharp again. Devin thought he was watching me fade. But I was waking up. What Devin didn't know was that I'd been building a case against him for 6 weeks. The night I watched him measure that powder into my thermos, I ordered a tiny camera online and installed it in the kitchen, angled directly at the tea station. It was hidden inside a decorative plant he never watered because he never cared about anything in that house that didn't have a dollar sign attached to it. I recorded him on 14 separate occasions measuring that powder and stirring it into my thermos. 14 mornings. 14 calm, deliberate acts of poisoning. I collected samples of the powder from the container behind the spice rack and sent them to an independent toxicology lab under a friend's name. The results came back in 10 days. Thallium, a slow-acting, nearly tasteless poison. It's been called the poisoner's poison for centuries because, in small doses, it's almost impossible to detect. The symptoms mimic dozens of other conditions: fatigue, confusion, hair loss, tremors. It was textbook. I documented every symptom I'd experienced over the past year, every doctor's visit, every blood test, every date. Then I cross-referenced all of it with Devin's access to my food and drink. The timeline was airtight. On the days I was away from him, my symptoms improved. On the days I was home, they returned. I saved every text message he'd sent to my mother, my sister, and Lydia, where he discussed my mental decline. The gaslighting was all there in writing. Calculated, coordinated, deliberate. I had 14 videos, lab results, medical records, text messages, insurance documents, bank transfer records, a paper trail so clean a first-year law student could win the case. Devin was still smiling at me across the breakfast table every morning, thinking he was winning. He had no idea he was sitting across from the woman who was about to end him. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. My college roommate Shonda had become one of the most respected criminal prosecutors in our state. We hadn't spoken in a while, but the kind of friendship we had didn't need constant maintenance. It was built on something real. I called her on a Tuesday night from the parking lot of a grocery store because I didn't trust a single room in my own house. I told her everything. The silence on her end lasted almost a full minute. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and deadly serious. "Renata, this isn't divorce territory. This is attempted murder. We're going to handle this right." Shonda connected me with a top criminal attorney and a private investigator who specialized in domestic poisoning cases. She also quietly looped in a detective she trusted, someone who would take this seriously and move fast. Meanwhile, I played my part at home. I stumbled on purpose. I called Devin by the wrong name. I pretended to forget where I'd parked my car. I let him believe his poison was working exactly as planned. And he believed it. He grew bolder every single day. He called my sister and told her he thought it was time to start discussing a conservatorship. He met with a real estate agent to get my properties appraised, just in case. One night, he went to a bar called Sullivan's with a friend. He sat there drinking whiskey and said, "Another few months and this whole thing will be mine. She won't even remember her own name." He didn't know that my private investigator was sitting 2 stools away, recording every word. That recording was added to the evidence file the next morning. The trap was almost ready. A few days later, Devin came home with a new set of power of attorney documents. He'd scheduled a notary to come to the house on Saturday. His voice was sweet as honey. "Baby, I just want to make sure you're taken care of." I looked up at him from the couch where I'd been pretending to nap. I gave him a soft, tired smile. "Saturday works. I'll be ready." He kissed my forehead and walked away humming to himself. He had no idea what Saturday was actually going to look like. Saturday morning came and Devin was in a wonderful mood. He'd set up the dining room like it was a celebration. Fresh flowers on the table, coffee and pastries laid out. The notary arrived first, a quiet man with a leather folder. Then Devin's lawyer showed up, the same one from before with the same stack of papers. Devin had even invited my mother and my sister. For support, he told them. So Renata feels comfortable. I could hear them all chatting in the dining room, their voices warm and confident. Devin had won. This was his victory lap. I walked in from the hallway. Devin looked up and smiled. "There she is. Come sit down, baby." "Actually," I said, "I invited a few people too." The front door opened behind me. Shonda walked in first. Then the criminal attorney. Then the detective, badge visible on his belt. Then the private investigator carrying a box of files. Devin's smile melted off his face like wax. "What is this? Renata, what's going on?" I didn't sit down. I walked to the head of the table. My table? In my house. And I looked at him. "You've been poisoning me, Devin. Thallium. In my tea. Every morning for the past year." The room went dead silent. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. I placed a thick folder on the table and opened it. 14 recordings of you measuring poison into my thermos. Lab results confirming thallium. Your text messages to my family telling them I was losing my mind. The $2 million life insurance policy you took out on me. And a recording from Sullivan's bar where you told your friend that in a few months, everything I built would be yours. Devin's face went white. He stammered. "That's insane. You're confused." "This is exactly what I've been talking about." The detective stepped forward. His voice was flat and official. "Mr. Cole, we've reviewed the evidence. A warrant has been issued for your arrest. You're being charged with attempted murder by poisoning." Devin spun toward my mother, looking for someone, anyone, to defend him. My mother was staring at the folder. Tears were running down her face. She whispered, "Oh my God, Renata, I'm so sorry. I believed him." My sister sat frozen in her chair, her hand over her mouth, shaking. Devin's lawyer looked at the evidence for about 10 seconds. Then he closed his briefcase, stood up, and walked out the front door without saying a single word. The detective pulled out handcuffs. And that's when Devin dropped the mask. The softness disappeared. The concern vanished. His voice went cold and hard. "You were supposed to be too sick to figure it out. You were supposed to just fade." I stepped close to him. Close enough to see the sweat on his forehead. Close enough that he could see exactly how clear my eyes were. "That's your problem, Devin. You married a woman who built a $20 million company from nothing, and you thought a little powder in a teacup would break her." They cuffed him right there in my dining room. They walked him through the front door of the house I paid for, down the driveway I owned, and put him in the back of a police car. I stood in my doorway and watched until the car disappeared around the corner. And for the first time in a year, I took a deep breath that didn't hurt. Devin was formally charged with attempted murder and fraud. The case made the news across 3 states. His lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. He took a plea deal to avoid trial. 18 years in prison. I filed for divorce the same week. It was granted immediately with full asset protection. Devin received nothing. The life insurance policy was voided. The fraudulent bank account was frozen, and every dollar was returned to me. My mother and sister came to see me a few weeks later. They sat in my living room and cried. They apologized over and over. I forgave them, slowly. I understood why they believed him. He was that good at what he did. But it changed things between us. Trust isn't a switch you just flip back on. I returned to my company full-time, stronger and sharper than I'd been in years. I launched a foundation dedicated to helping women who experience covert domestic abuse. The kind that doesn't leave bruises. The kind that makes you think you're losing your mind until you almost do. He spent a year trying to erase me. But here I am. Standing in the same kitchen, drinking my own tea, running my own life. Some women aren't built to fade, and I'm one of them. If someone you trusted ever tried to take everything from you, your health, your money, your mind, I want to hear your story. You survived it, and that matters. Subscribe to this channel so we can keep building this community of people who refuse to be broken. Drop your experience in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, your worth is not determined by the people who failed to see it. It's determined by what you do when you finally see it yourself.